The throne room of the Valanthi Empire had never felt so cold. Princess Yura stood before the great window, watching her dying world burn in the distance. 3 moons hung in the purple sky, but smoke from the eastern cities blocked their light. The Kreeth had come, and they had brought death with them. Her father, Emperor Taiwan, sat on his throne with his head in his hands. He was old now. His blue skin faded to gray. His once proud horns cracked from years of worry. The war had aged him faster than time ever could. "There is no other way," he said, his voice broken. "We must accept their offer." Yura turned from the window. Her silver eyes burned with anger and shame. "You want me to marry a human? Father, they are nothing. They are weak creatures from a small planet. Their bodies break easily. They live such short lives. How can marriage to one of them save us?" The Emperor looked at his daughter with tired eyes. "Because the humans have ships. They have weapons we cannot understand. And they have agreed to help us fight the Kreeth. But only if we join our bloodlines. They want respect in the galaxy. They want to be seen as equals. They are not our equals," Yura said coldly. "Then pretend they are. For our people. For the billions who will die if the Kreeth reach the inner worlds." Yura closed her eyes. She thought of her mother, killed in the first Kreeth attack. She thought of her younger brother, missing somewhere in the outer territories. She thought of the children in the cities, looking up at burning skies and wondering if tomorrow would come. She opened her eyes. "Who is this human I must marry?" "His name is Sunwoo. He is an ambassador. He arrived yesterday with a small fleet of human ships. They say he is kind. They say he is gentle." "Gentle," Yura repeated the word like it was poison. "A gentle husband will not win this war." "No," her father agreed. "But his people's weapons might." The wedding happened 3 days later. It was a small ceremony, held in the war room instead of the great temple. There were no flowers, no music, no celebration, just 2 species making a deal to survive. Yura wore the traditional white armor of Valanthi brides. It was meant to show strength, to tell the universe that she was a warrior who chose to love. But she did not feel like a warrior today. She felt like a sacrifice. When Sunwoo walked into the room, Yura studied him carefully. He was tall for a human, with black hair and dark eyes. His face was soft, almost gentle. Just as her father had said, he wore simple clothes, nothing fancy or impressive. He looked more like a teacher than a soldier. "This is my husband," Yura thought. "This soft creature is supposed to help save my people." Sunwoo bowed to her in the human way. "Princess Yura," he said. His voice was quiet and calm. "I know this is not what you wanted. I know you see this marriage as a burden. I will try not to make it heavier than it must be." Yura did not know what to say. She had expected pride, or demands, or the cold calculation of politics. She had not expected kindness. "The ceremony will begin," she said flatly. "Stand beside me." They spoke the words. They made the promises. When it was over, Yura was married to a human, and the human fleet became part of the Valanthi Defense Force. That night, they shared quarters on the Imperial warship. Yura sat on one side of the room, cleaning her blade. Sunwoo sat on the other side, reading something on a small device. "You do not have to fear me," Sunwoo said without looking up. "I will not ask anything of you that you do not wish to give." "I fear nothing," Yura replied. Sunwoo smiled slightly. "Then you are very different from me. I fear many things. I fear this war. I fear the suffering it will bring. I fear that my presence here will only make things harder for you." Yura stopped cleaning her blade. She looked at this strange human with new confusion. "Why would you come here if you are so afraid?" "Because fear and duty are not opposites," Sunwoo said. "I can be afraid and still do what must be done. Humans have always been this way. We feel our fear, and then we act anyway. That sounds like weakness. Perhaps. Or perhaps it is something else." Yura did not respond. She returned to her blade. but her mind would not rest. What kind of creature admits fear so easily? What kind of warrior speaks of being scared as if it is normal? The next morning, she watched Sunwoo from across the ship. He walked through the corridors slowly, stopping to speak with everyone he met. He talked to engineers about their work. He asked soldiers about their families. He even spent an hour in the medical bay, sitting with wounded warriors and listening to their stories. General Quan, Yura's most trusted advisor, appeared at her side. "Your husband is strange," he said. "He is human." Yura replied. "Ulmer, he does not act like the humans in the stories. I expected them to be loud and aggressive. This one is quiet. Too quiet. Perhaps he is hiding something, or perhaps there is nothing to hide. Perhaps he is simply weak." Yura watched Sunwoo hand a cup of water to a wounded soldier. The soldier looked surprised that someone so important would serve him. Sunwoo just smiled and moved to the next bed. "Weak," Yura repeated. "Yes, that must be it." But somewhere deep in her chest, she felt a small seed of doubt. There was something in Sunwoo's eyes that she could not understand. Something that did not match his gentle words and soft movements. She pushed the feeling away. There was a war to fight, and she did not have time to wonder about humans and their strange ways. She had married a weak creature to save her people, and that was all there was to know. The Kreeth were coming, and when they arrived, Yura would face them alone, as she always had. Her human husband would stay in the back, where soft things belonged, or so she believed. 2 weeks passed aboard the Imperial warship. The fleet moved slowly through the darkness between stars, preparing for the battle that everyone knew was coming. And in that time, Yura learned to hate her husband's kindness. It was not that Sunwoo did anything wrong. That was the problem. He did nothing wrong, but he also did nothing useful. While Yura trained with her soldiers, Sunwoo tended the small garden he had planted in an unused storage room. While she studied battle plans, he played soft music on a strange human instrument with strings. While she sharpened her blade, he cooked meals for the crew and delivered them with a smile. "Your husband made soup again," General Quan said one morning, his voice flat with disapproval. Yura did not look up from her work. "Is it good soup?" "The soldiers love it. They say he puts some human spice in it that warms the stomach. Then let them enjoy it." "Princess, the men are starting to talk. They say you married a servant, not a warrior. They say the humans tricked us." Yura finally looked at her general. "What do you want me to do, Quan? Force him to fight? He is not a soldier. He is a diplomat. His job is to speak, not to kill." "Then why did they send him? Why not a human general? Why not someone who can actually help us win?" Yura had no answer. She had asked herself the same question many times. That evening, she found Sunwoo in his garden. The room was small, but he had transformed it into something beautiful. Green plants grew in neat rows. Small flowers bloomed in colors she had never seen. The air smelled sweet and fresh, so different from the recycled air in the rest of the ship. "You spend a lot of time here," Yura said from the doorway. Sunwoo looked up from the soil. His hands were dirty, and there was a small smile on his face. "Plants help me think. Back on Earth, I had a large garden. I grew vegetables for my neighbors. There was an old woman named Bora who loved my tomatoes. We are flying toward a war, and you are thinking about tomatoes. We are flying toward death," Sunwoo corrected gently. "In times like this, it helps to remember life. These plants do not know about the Kreeth. They do not know about politics or alliances. They simply grow toward the light. There is wisdom in that." Yura stepped into the garden. She looked at the strange earth plants with their green leaves and colorful flowers. "My people are dying, Sunwoo. Every day, the Kreeth take another world. Every day, more children become orphans. And you want me to find wisdom in vegetables? I want you to find peace. Even a small amount. A warrior who carries only anger will eventually break. I am not going to break." Sunwoo stood up and wiped his hands on his clothes. "I believe you. You are the strongest person I have ever met, Yura. But strength without rest is just a slower form of destruction. Yura did not know how to respond. No one had ever spoken to her this way. Her generals gave her reports. Her father gave her orders. Her soldiers gave her loyalty. But no one ever gave her concern. "Why are you like this?" she finally asked. "Why are you so calm when everything is falling apart?" Sun Wu was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different somehow, deeper. "Because I have seen things fall apart before. And I have learned that panic does not help. When the storm comes, you must be the stillness at its center." "What storm have you seen?" "Humans live on a safe world. You have no great enemies. Your people spread across the galaxy like water, filling every space without resistance." "We have enemies," Sun Wu said softly. "We have always had enemies. The worst ones were ourselves. Humans have fought more wars than you can imagine, Yura. We have burned our own cities, killed our own brothers, destroyed our own lands. We know war very well. We simply choose not to show it." Yura studied his face. For a moment, she thought she saw something behind his gentle eyes. Something old. Something dark. But then it was gone. And he was just Sun Wu again. The quiet human, with dirt on his hands. "I do not understand you," she admitted. "That is okay. I do not fully understand myself sometimes." The ship shook suddenly. Alarms began to scream through the corridors. Red lights flashed in the garden, turning the green plants into shadows. "All hands to battle stations," a voice announced. "Kreth scouts detected. This is not a drill." Yura moved instantly. Her hand found her blade, and her body shifted into warrior mode. She ran toward the door, then stopped and looked back at Sun Wu. He was still standing in his garden, looking at the flashing lights with a calm expression. "Get to the safe area," she ordered. "You do not belong in battle." "I know," he said. "Be careful." "Yura." She did not have time to respond. She ran through the corridors, joining her soldiers as they prepared to fight. The Kreth scouts were small ships, probably sent to test their defenses. It would be an easy victory, but as Yura reached the command center, she could not stop thinking about what Sun Wu had said. Humans had fought wars against themselves. They had burned their own cities. They knew war very well. Then why did they hide it? Why did they send a gardener instead of a general? The battle began, and Yura pushed the questions from her mind. She gave orders, commanded her fleet, and destroyed the enemy scouts with cold efficiency. It was over in less than an hour. When she returned to her quarters, exhausted and covered in the dust of battle, she found Sun Wu waiting with a cup of warm tea. "You won," he said simply. "Of course I won. They were only scouts. The main fleet will come soon. The Kreth do not send scouts unless they are planning something large." Yura took the tea and drank deeply. It was good. Everything Sun Wu made was good. "I know. We have perhaps 3 days before they arrive." Quote. Sun Wu nodded slowly. "Then you should rest. You will need your strength. And what will you do? Plant more flowers? Perhaps. Or perhaps I will prepare for what comes next." There was something in his voice that made Yura pause. She looked at him carefully, but his face showed nothing except gentle concern. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Nothing important. Sleep well, Yura. Tomorrow will be hard." He left the room quietly. Yura sat alone with her tea, watching the door close behind him. She thought about his strange words, his calm eyes, his peaceful garden in the middle of a warship. "Who are you really, Sun Wu?" she wondered. "What are you hiding behind that gentle smile?" She did not know it yet, but she was about to find out. The Kreth fleet arrived on the 3rd day, just as Sun Wu had predicted. They came out of the darkness between stars like a swarm of metal insects. Their ships were black and sharp, built for one purpose only: destruction. Yura stood in the command center, watching the enemy approach on the main screen. Her heart beat fast, but her face showed nothing. A princess did not show fear, especially not in front of her soldiers. "Count the ships," she ordered. General Quan worked the controls with shaking hands. When the numbers appeared, the room went silent. 300 warships, Quan said, his voice hollow. 50 heavy cruisers, and one world breaker. The world breaker. Yura had heard stories about these massive ships. They were the size of small moons, armed with weapons that could turn entire planets into dust. No Valanthi fleet had ever survived an encounter with one. How many ships do we have? Yura asked, though she already knew the answer. 42, including the human vessels. 42 against 300. It was not a battle, it was an execution. Princess, one of her officers said quietly, we should retreat. We can fall back to the inner worlds, regroup, and let the Kreth take the outer territories? Let them burn another dozen planets while we run? Yura shook her head. No, we fight here. We fight now. We will die here, Quan said bluntly. Yura knew he was right. She had known it from the moment she saw the enemy numbers. But she was a Valanthi princess, daughter of warriors. And warriors did not run from death. They ran toward it. Then we die with honor, she said. Prepare the fleet for, if I may speak. The voice was quiet and calm. Everyone in the command center turned to look at the speaker. Sunwoo stood in the doorway. He had changed his clothes. Gone were the simple garments of a diplomat. He now wore something dark and fitted, with strange symbols on the chest. His face was still gentle, but there was something different in his eyes, something sharp. This is a military matter, General Quan said dismissively. Return to the safe area, human. Sunwoo ignored him. He walked into the room slowly, his eyes fixed on the screen showing the Kreth fleet. He studied the enemy formation with an expression Yura had never seen before. You are right that direct battle will fail, Sunwoo said. The Kreth have superior numbers and firepower. 42 ships cannot defeat 300. Not in a fair fight. Then you agree we should retreat? Quan asked. No, I agree that we should not fight fair. The room went quiet again. Yura stepped forward, curiosity replacing some of her fear. What do you mean? Sunwoo pointed at the screen. The Kreth formation is standard. They place their strongest ships at the front, their weaker ships at the back. The Worldbreaker stays in the center, protected by the fleet. They expect you to attack from the front, where they are strongest. They expect you to be honorable and predictable. That is how battles are fought, Quan said. That is how battles are lost. Sunwoo's voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now, something cold. Humans learned long ago that honor is a luxury of the strong. When you are weak, you must be clever. When you are outnumbered, you must be ruthless. What are you suggesting? Yura asked. Sunwoo looked at her directly. For the first time since she had known him, she saw no gentleness in his gaze. Only calculation. Only purpose. Give me command of the human ships, all 15 of them. Give me 30 minutes before you engage the enemy, and do not ask me what I am going to do, because you will not like the answer. General Quan laughed bitterly. You, command ships? You are a gardener, human. You make soup and play music. What do you know about war? Sunwoo did not answer immediately. He simply reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal object. He placed it on the table in front of Quan. It was a medal. Old and worn, but unmistakable. The symbol on it was a human skull over crossed weapons. Quan picked it up and examined it. His expression changed from mockery to confusion to something else. Something like fear. This is a Deathwalker medal, Quan whispered. I have read about these. They are given to human soldiers who survive impossible battles. There are less than 100 in existence. 83, Sunwoo corrected softly. I have 2 of them. The room was completely silent now. Every officer stared at Sunwoo with new eyes. This was not a gardener. This was not a diplomat. This was something else entirely. You lied to us, Yura said. Her voice was cold, but inside she felt something strange. Something like hope. I did not lie. I simply did not tell you everything. Humans believe that violence should be the last choice, not the first. I hoped this war could be won with diplomacy and alliances. I hoped I would never have to become what I used to be. And what were you? Sun Wu picked up his medal and put it back in his pocket. I was the thing that other humans feared. I was the weapon that ended wars. I was what my people call a last resort. He looked at the screen again, at the hundreds of enemy ships waiting to destroy them. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with something ancient and terrible. The Kreth think they know war, he said quietly. They think they understand destruction. They are children playing with fire. They have never seen what a human can do when there is nothing left to lose. Yura made her decision. She did not fully understand what Sun Wu was, but she knew one thing. Her current plan led to certain death. His plan, whatever it was, offered a chance. You have command of the human ships, she said. You have 30 minutes. Do what you must. Sun Wu bowed slightly. Thank you, Princess. I recommend you watch closely. Your people will want to know what humans are capable of. Today, I will show them. He turned and walked out of the command center. His footsteps were light, but they seemed to echo like thunder. General Quan moved close to Yura. Princess, are you sure about this? We know nothing about what he plans to do. No, Yura admitted. But I know one thing now that I did not know before. What is that? My husband is not weak. He was only pretending to be. And now the Kreth are going to learn what happens when a human stops pretending. She turned back to the screen and waited. In 30 minutes, everything she believed about humans would change forever. The 15 human ships separated from the main fleet and moved into the darkness. They were small vessels, much smaller than the Valanthi warships. On the screen, they looked like insects flying toward a mountain. What is he doing? General Quan asked nervously. He is moving toward the enemy's blind spot. Yura watched in silence. The human ships were not attacking. They were circling around the Kreth fleet, staying just outside weapon range. It looked like they were running away. Coward, one of the officers muttered. He is going to abandon us. But Yura kept watching. Sun Wu had asked for 30 minutes. She would give him 30 minutes. At minute 15, the human ships stopped moving. They were now behind the Kreth fleet, near the supply ships and transport vessels. These were not combat ships. They carried fuel, food, and ammunition for the main fleet. They were barely defended. He is going to attack the supply line, Quan said, understanding dawning on his face. But that is not honorable warfare. That is how humans fight, Yura finished for him. At minute 17, the human ships fired. It was not a normal attack. The human weapons were different from anything Yura had seen. They did not fire energy beams or missiles. Instead, they fired something else. Small objects that moved fast and split into hundreds of smaller pieces. The first supply ship exploded before anyone understood what had happened. Then the second, then 10 more. In less than 2 minutes, the entire Kreth supply line was burning. Impossible, Quan whispered. Those weapons, they are illegal. They are banned by every treaty in the galaxy. Humans do not care about your treaties, Yura said quietly. She watched the destruction with a mixture of horror and fascination. Her gentle husband, the man who grew flowers and made soup, had just destroyed more ships in 2 minutes than she had in her entire military career. The Kreth fleet responded with chaos. Ships broke formation, turning to face this unexpected threat. Commanders screamed orders over open channels. The beautiful, organized attack formation fell apart like a broken puzzle, and then Sun Wu's voice came over the communication system. It was broadcast on all frequencies, so both fleets could hear it. This is Ambassador Sun Wu of the Human Confederation, speaking to the Kreth commander. You have attacked our allies. You have murdered civilians. You have made humans very angry. I am going to give you one chance to retreat. Take it. A harsh, laughing response came from the Krith flagship. Retreat? You destroyed some supply ships, human. We still have 300 warships. We still have the World Breaker. Your 15 little vessels cannot stop us. You are correct, Sun Wu replied calmly. My 15 ships cannot stop you. But I did not ask for 30 minutes to destroy your fleet with 15 ships. I asked for 30 minutes so my reinforcements could arrive. At that moment, space itself seemed to tear open. Jump gates activated all around the Krith fleet. Not one gate, not 10 gates, but over 100. From each gate, human warships emerged. Big ships, deadly ships, ships that made the Volanthi vessels look like toys. The main screen in Yura's command center flickered as it tried to count them. The number kept climbing. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 human warships, Quan said, his voice breaking. Where did they come from? How is this possible? Yura could not answer. She could only watch as the human fleet surrounded the Kreth like wolves surrounding a wounded animal. Sun Wu spoke again. The human fleet was waiting 3 systems away. I called them when I first saw your scouts 3 days ago. You thought you were hunting the Volanthi. You were wrong. You were walking into a trap. Now, I ask again, will you retreat? The Kreth commander's response was to fire the Worldbreaker's main weapon at the nearest human ship. The massive beam of energy crossed the darkness and struck the human vessel. But the ship did not explode. It absorbed the blast with shields that glowed gold and white. It did not even slow down. That was your answer, Sun Wu said. His voice was different now. Colder? Harder. Now here is mine. The human fleet attacked. It was not a battle. It was a lesson. Human weapons tore through Kreth shields like they were not there. Human ships moved with speed and coordination that seemed impossible. They worked together perfectly, each vessel knowing exactly where to be and when to fire. And at the center of it all, Sun Wu commanded from his small ship. His orders came fast and precise. Attack here. Defend there. Focus fire on that cruiser. Ignore that destroyer. Every command was perfect. Every decision was instant. Yura had studied war her entire life. She had trained since childhood to be a warrior. But watching Sun Wu work, she realized she knew nothing about true warfare. He did not fight with passion or anger. He fought with cold, terrible efficiency. He killed without hate, without mercy, without hesitation. This is what humans are, she thought. This is what they hide behind their gentle smiles and their gardens and their soup. They are monsters pretending to be kind. The battle lasted 43 minutes. When it was over, the Kreth fleet was destroyed. All 300 warships. All 50 cruisers, even the Worldbreaker, the ship that could destroy planets, was nothing but burning metal floating in the void. The human fleet had lost 12 ships, 12 against 350. Sun Wu's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired. There was no victory in his eyes. No celebration. He looked like a man who had just finished a terrible job that he never wanted to do. The Kreth are defeated, he said simply. Their home fleet will receive word of this loss within days. They will not attack Volanthi space again. Your people are safe, Princess. Yura stood frozen, staring at the face of her husband. The gentle gardener, the kind diplomat, the quiet man who brought tea and spoke of peace, the monster who had just killed 100,000 enemies without raising his voice. What are you? She whispered. Sun Wu's expression flickered with something like sadness. I am human, he said. This is what we are. This is what we can become when we must. I am sorry you had to see it. The screen went dark. Around Yura, her officers stood in stunned silence. They had come here expecting to die. They had survived because a human who liked to grow flowers had revealed himself to be something ancient and terrible. General Quan was the first to speak. Princess, he said softly, I think we need to reconsider everything we believed about humans. Yura nodded slowly. Yes, we do. And I need to have a very long conversation with my husband. She walked out of the command center, leaving her officers to deal with the aftermath. She had to find Sunwoo. She had to understand the man she had married, because now she knew the truth. She had not married weakness. She had married war itself, dressed in gentle clothing and hiding behind a kind smile. And somehow, that terrified her more than the Kreeth ever had. Yura found Sunwoo in his garden. He was kneeling in the soil, gently touching the leaves of a small plant. His hands were clean now, but she could still imagine them giving commands that killed thousands. The contrast made her stomach turn. "You came," he said without looking up. "I thought you might. How could I not?" Yura stepped into the garden and closed the door behind her. "I just watched my husband destroy an entire fleet. I just learned that the man I thought was weak is actually some kind of monster?" Sunwoo offered quietly. "I do not know what word to use." Sunwoo finally looked up at her. His eyes were the same dark brown they had always been. His face was still gentle. But now Yura could see the shadows behind that gentleness. She could see the weight he carried. "Sit with me," he said, gesturing to a small spot beside him. "Please, I want to explain, if you will let me." Yura hesitated. 3 hours ago, she would have refused. A princess did not sit in the dirt with her husband. But 3 hours ago, she had thought she understood the universe. Now, she understood nothing. She sat down beside him. For a long moment, Sunwoo said nothing. He simply looked at his plants, at the small green things growing toward the light. "I was born on Earth," he finally said, "in a small village called Pyeongchang. My parents were farmers. They grew rice and vegetables. They were peaceful people, kind people. They taught me that every life has value, that violence is always the last answer, never the first." "Then how did you become what you are?" "War found me. It always finds humans eventually. When I was young, a great conflict began. Our enemies were not aliens. They were other humans. People who believed differently than we did. People who wanted what we had. And when they came to our village," he stopped. His hands closed around a handful of soil, squeezing it tight. "They killed your parents," Yura said. "It was not a question. They killed everyone. I survived because I was hiding in the rice fields. I was 9 years old. I watched my village burn and made a promise to myself. I would become strong enough that no one could ever hurt the people I loved again. So you became a soldier. I became more than a soldier. I became what my people call a reaper. I was trained by the best warriors humanity had. I learned every weapon, every strategy, every way to kill, and then I was sent to fight. For 20 years, I did nothing but war. I ended conflicts. I destroyed enemies. I became so good at killing that other humans were afraid of me." Yura tried to imagine it. This quiet man, this gentle gardener, covered in blood and standing over fallen enemies. The image was wrong, but she knew it was true. "If you were so powerful, why did you stop? Why become a diplomat?" Sunwoo opened his hand and let the soil fall. "Because I realized something important. Killing is easy, Yura. Any fool can destroy. It takes no wisdom, no courage, no strength of character. The truly difficult thing is to build, to create, to heal. I spent 20 years learning to take life. I decided to spend the rest of my years learning to nurture it." He gestured at the plants around them. "This garden is my reminder. Every time I touch the soil, every time I help something grow, I remember why I stopped being a monster. I remember that humans are meant for more than war." "But today you went back," Yura said. "Today you became the monster again." "Yes. Because there was no other choice. Your people were going to die. You were going to die. And I." He paused, struggling with his words. "I could not let that happen, so I did what I promised I would never do again. I became the weapon. Do you regret it?" Sunwoo thought about the question carefully. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that violence was the only answer. But I do not regret saving your people. I do not regret saving you. Yura felt something shift inside her chest. For 2 weeks, she had looked at this man with contempt. She had seen his kindness as weakness, his gentleness as failure. She had been so wrong. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. I called you weak. I thought you were less than my people. I was a fool. You were not a fool. You simply did not understand humans yet. Most species do not. They see our soft bodies and our short lives, and they think we are prey. They do not realize that we are predators who have chosen not to hunt. Why? Why hide what you are? Because showing it changes things. Once people know what humans can do, they never look at us the same way. They fear us. They hate us. They see the monster instead of the gardener. I wanted to be more than that. I wanted to be something better. Yura reached out and took his hand. The gesture surprised them both. She had never touched him willingly before. His hand was warm, and despite everything she now knew, it was gentle. You are not a monster, she said firmly. A monster would enjoy killing. A monster would not grow gardens or make soup or sit with wounded soldiers. A monster would not feel pain after battle. You are something else, Sunwoo. You are a protector who hates the violence he must use to protect. Sunwoo looked at her with surprise. For the first time since she had known him, she saw tears forming in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. You do not know how long I have waited to hear someone say that. They sat together in the garden for a long time, holding hands amid the growing plants. Outside, the fleet celebrated their impossible victory. Officers planned how to spread the news of the battle. The Valanthe Empire would survive, and they would never forget what humans had done for them. But inside the small garden, there was only peace. Finally, Yura spoke again. What happens now? Between us? Sunwoo turned to look at her. That depends on you. Our marriage was political. You never wanted it. If you wish, I can return to Earth. The alliance will remain. Your people are safe now. Yura considered his words. 3 hours ago, she would have accepted his offer immediately. She had never wanted a human husband. She had never wanted any husband at all, but that was before she understood what he truly was. My people believe that the strongest bonds are formed in fire, she said slowly. We believe that true partners are those who face death together and survive. By that measure, we are now truly married. What are you saying? I am saying that I do not want you to leave. I am saying that I was wrong about you, and I want to learn who you really are. Not the monster, not the diplomat, but the man, the one who grows flowers because he wants to remember that he is more than a weapon. Sunwoo smiled. It was a real smile. Not the polite one he had worn before. It transformed his face, making him look younger, happier, more alive. Then I will stay, he said. And I will teach you about tomatoes. And you will teach me about your people. And perhaps we will find something good in this marriage after all. Yura smiled back. It was strange, how quickly everything had changed. This morning, she had been ready to die in a hopeless battle. Tonight, she was sitting in a garden with a man who had saved her people, holding his hand like they were young lovers with no worries in the world. One more question, she said. Yes? Can you actually teach me to cook that soup? My soldiers will not stop talking about it. Sunwoo laughed. It was a beautiful sound, full of joy and relief and hope. Yes, he said, I can teach you. But first, you have to promise not to burn the rice. Humans take rice very seriously. I promise. And there, in a small garden on a warship floating through space, a princess and a monster began to fall in love, not because of politics or alliances or duty, but because they had finally seen each other clearly, and they liked what they saw. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance. The universe remained vast and dangerous, and full of wonders. But for one night, none of that mattered. For one night, there was only a garden, and two people who had found something unexpected. Each other.